So it's not ideal. I've got a 2-year-old here. We've got Peppa Pig on in the background. The wife's jetting off to Spain as we speak, but the show must go on. And today we're going to talk about something that I think is important and something that I think that many men, not on purpose, end up taking for granted. Okay, and that's being the man that you need to be for your wife. Okay, I'm not a relationship expert, but sorry, I'm just trying to sort of. I'm not a relationship expert by any means, but I've been doing this a long time now, and I have listened to men, full-grown men, crying to me down the phone because they're living in the bedsit and they messed up their relationship. I have guys who are not prioritising their wives right now and are heading that way, whose wives aren't happy with them. And it is a real thing. It is a real thing. And it's something that men don't think is ever going to happen to them, i.e. losing their wife, losing that family home, because they're not present, because they're not showing up until it actually happens. And it's a bit of a heartbreaker, but I want to be able to give you some awareness in terms of the situation and everything else that's going on around you, so that you might be able just to reconnect enough to make a difference in that relationship and feel like you have a strong bond again. So let's get into it. Welcome to the Rise to Thrive show. I am your host, James Boardman. And if you are coming through, then please do let me know in the comments. What I would love for you to do in the comments, I know not everybody engages in the comments, as I know we've got a lot of lurkers in the background, but if you could open up a little bit, this might help you. What's one thing that you could do to really make a difference in improving your connection? And if you're up for the challenge, let's, as a collective of men, go out and buy the wife some flowers, or take her out to lunch at the weekend, or do something for her at the weekend. Okay, so listen, how does the disconnect happen? Why does the disconnect happen? What happens? So to connect with somebody, to have a relationship with somebody, there are two key fundamental things that we need. Number one is communication, which men are rubbish at, by the way. And number two, understanding. So, communication. I truly believe that if I walked into a majority of my clients and the majority of the people that followed me, and I turned around and said and asked their partner, wife, or whatever it might be, does your husband or does your partner communicate how he's feeling? I reckon at least 85% of those wives or partners would say no, they're not communicating what they're going through right now. And what we do as men is we hold it all in. Well, don't put it under there, eh? Don't communicate. Don't tell the person that we love the most, the person that means the most to us, the person that makes us happy, what we're going through mentally, emotionally and physically. And what we do as men, we hold it all in. So we walk around and we're grumpy and we're moody and we're short-tempered and everyone's treading on eggshells because we've got so much going on up in here, and we're too egotistical and we're too stubborn to open up about it and be vulnerable, because that's what men do. They stay strong and they don't show up. Okay, we're living in a different world now, where I think communication is absolutely key. I think, like, when you're struggling with something, I always kind of look at my partner, well, my wife, and think of her as my best mate first, my wife second. Okay, so I always look at her as the best mate. I always want to be able to have a joke around with her. I always want to be able to cry on her shoulder. I always want to be able to talk about her frustrations. She levels me out. But there's communication. But if I didn't do any of that, I would just probably walk around and not even say a word, because I'd be so grumpy. I'd be so inundated with my overthinking, right? But that's where the communication comes in, and that's where the connection comes from. I think you can really build such a great relationship of being open about your emotions and your feelings and what you're going through and your honesty. And it's so important. Do you want me to take this? Thank you. And it's so important. It's so important. And I think the less you communicate, the further apart you get. You distance yourself with no communication. And then there is understanding. Understanding actually, like putting yourself in her shoes. Putting yourself in her shoes and in her shoes and going, man, I wonder how I'm coming across. I wonder if she's struggling as well. I wonder if she's having a hard time. I wonder if she's doubting herself. But you overthink now. And you'll think now in your head, but never ask her. You never ask her. You know, I think there has to be lots of connections and the dots as well. So things like having a date night, one date night a week. So it could just be movies, no phone. It could be going out for a meal once a month, once every 2 weeks. It could be going for a walk together and just talking about life. It could be sharing... Darcy, no. It could be sharing a vision together. Do you share your visions together? Do you both talk about the direction that you want to go? Do you both talk about what you want to do when the kids up and move out? Do you both talk about what adventures you want in life? And all of these things... like bring you together like this. The less we do that, the further apart we go. So quite often when I talk to men who have made the mistakes and lost it all and ended up living in a bed sit or whatever, a lot of it is distraction from work. A lot of it is that, like, I nearly was in this position with my wife now, where I work myself into the bone. I've become obsessed with the business. I've become obsessed with growing up. I've become obsessed with security. And so much so that 80% of my life was consumed in work. 80% was consumed in that world, and 20% was consumed in, I'm trying to get fit, I'm trying to have a marriage, I'm trying to be a dad, I'm trying to personal development. And that's not a lot of time, so it's squashed. So actually within that 20%, my partner was probably only getting maybe 8-9%, which isn't enough to sustain a relationship. Do you know what I mean? It works both ways. Women and men both want to feel like they're important to each other. That's the whole point, right? So I think that the self-awareness, self-mastery type of thing is important. One of the things that I really get the most from when we deliver programs to those lads that show up to the programs is them improving themselves for the partner, for their wife, okay? Them improving themselves for their children. And when I see a family unit much stronger off the back of a man working on themselves, that's exactly what we're looking for. In theory, what we do here is we help men lead yourself to lead them around you. And leading you is about self-mastering yourself, self-mastering your emotions, self-mastering your actions, your discipline, your awareness. And then making and turning you into this elite operator where you absolutely understand what needs to happen to make a relationship work. Because family is always first. And if you are putting work before your family, work for a corporate company or for a paycheck or something else, or for commitment or obligation, and the sacrifice is your family, you need a really good hard slap around the face and a good hard look in the mirror, because you need to snap out of that mentality. Because you can be made redundant at any point, and I get that you've got to work, and I get that there's work pressures and stress, but at what sacrifice? Living in a little bedsit by yourself as you watch yourself distance yourself further away from your wife, right? It's got to, that mentality has to change, and that's the hard hitting truth about like those relationships, right? You never think it's going to happen to you until one day it happens to you. Okay? Don't take it for granted. Don't think just because you're married and you live under the same house that everything is fancy and everything is good. Because every man, the byproduct of a good relationship is a bloke who's on top of his game. Behind every man's success, there is a really good woman. And that really good woman has a really good connection with that guy. And that is what is in key. And so don't forget that. And I think this weekend, I think it's important to make sure that you show that. All right? Listen, have an amazing weekend. If you haven't already watched it, you can watch episode 1 of How to Transform Your Life, which is up above. Part 2 is dropping tomorrow. Have a good day. Have a good weekend. See you Monday.